Hey everyone, we're the Ri3D Redux team here. We got some great updates to cover with you. We've done a lot of great progress here today. There's a lot that's been done in the last 6 hours. A little bit more than that actually. But anyway, we're going to first, we've got our Swerve drive chassis down here with the Swerve drive specialties modules, among other things that the programming team's been working on. So I'm going to turn it over here to Steven, and he's going to talk more about that.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for FIRST students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Stryker is one of the world-leading medical technology companies and is driven to help make healthcare better. Stryker's commitment to innovation has made it a career destination for engineering professionals. Click the link in the description box below or go to careers.stryker.com to discover your next opportunity.
Hi, my name is Steven Carvain. I'm the head coach of 2832, the Livonia Warriors, and I'm going to talk about the progress we've made on the Swerve practice chassis that we had. Initially, it was programmed with all the old firmwares and stuff. So we took the time to re-image the Robo Rio. We took the time to reflash all the Spark controllers. We got everything up and running. We've taken time to make sure, we follow the WhippyLib software for the Swerve so that positive goes forward. Whenever the Swerve modules turn, they turn counterclockwise. We've checked all the sensors. The sensors are all working. We've checked our NavX, everything's correct. But we're still running into issues right now with our absolute encoders. We think that the sensors mounted a little offset from the magnet. So we're actually getting a dip as we go around 360, and so we're not getting a steady angle. So we're trying to patch up those last couple things, and we should be driving really quick.
Hey, chat, by the way, if you have any questions for any of the Ri3D team, post that in chat. We got Samantha will be grabbing those questions. So they come in droves, so get your questions in early so we can get to those. If you wait till later, less chance we're going to be able to get to your questions. So make sure you ask them early so we can get those, and Samantha will be jumping on the microphone to ask those as they come through.
Yeah, and I'll just say really quick, our code's up on GitHub. We're actually using the sample WhippyLib Swerve library, and it should be pretty easy to follow what we're doing, just like the WhippyLib example. So that's
maybe you learned from Swerve that you can instill upon other teams.
The biggest thing with Swerve that we've noticed is make sure that with the turn motors, you actually turn off the position control when you're basically at the exact angle. Last year, our team actually burned up several we used Neo 550s for our turn motors, and several of them got burned up when they were sitting there trying to get at it kept constantly commanding a thousandth of a volt. And because of that, the motor was always installed and we would burn them up. So that's the biggest thing that we've noticed. You ready, Ben? Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. If anyone has any programming questions, feel free to put them in chat, and we'll get back to the team on that one. So here we're going to go ahead and talk. We've got a second robot that we're putting together now that we saw the game, and we saw that, hey, maybe there might be advantages to being a little bit smaller in some cases. And we built another robot here that you could fit 3 of these robots together on the platform. I'm going to let Jack. We've been putting together this robot chassis here. I'm going to let him talk about that.
So for this robot chassis, we ended up doing a 25 by 30 dimensions. And so what we did with this is we use Argo 1756 build style. What we do is we use about rib nuts. So we pre-drill all with 1964's drill bit size, which is the clearance hole for a rib nut. So when you're ready, you just count the holes. We have a little template and a bracket, which then you can just put it to length and cut the size to length. It worked really well. I can show something. Because of the SDS and not knowing the size to make it modular, we created an insert just to work with the SDS Swerve drive. So it just creates a smaller tolerance, and we can show that a little later. Just so when we put everything together, it's nice and square. And then we just would put rib nuts all along the sides at the beginning of the day, not knowing what we're going to have to do later on or what the goal is. And we started building a structure where we're going to try to use an arm later on that we're mounting right here so it can pivot back and forth. This is where we're at right now. There's still a lot more to investigate. It deals a lot with what our end effector or end arm tool is going to end up being. But right now we got a good start with the whole drive base put together and the frame nice and the wire, all the electronics almost done and wired, ready to give to the programming team. So that's it.
All right, and with that, we got some great products from our sponsors on here. We've got some gussets and some from both Andy Mark and the Thrifty Bot that are helping hold this together. Very easy to use and great with the build style. We were able to get this together really quickly with that. We've got clamping gearboxes. You'll see them around in a couple different things, both from, again, Andy Mark and the Thrifty Bot. They're very useful for clamping around tube, like you can see here in this case, where we it makes it so we can get a really straight line for our shaft when we put it through there, and our joint's gonna go together really quickly for getting that arm on that robot.
Hey Ben, when we look at kind of a general concept of how we're approaching Ri3D, why did we even go Swerve drive in the first place for things? And then as we start to work into the other mechanisms, can you break down some of the general strategy that Robotics Redux is looking at doing?
Yeah, we could talk through that. I'll get a little bit more about an overview in the end, just so we can kind of consolidate it together too. But really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the best robots that our team can do in 3 days, because we want to, show as much potential as possible that teams could get to and work to themselves here too. The robots that we're doing here, they may be, in some cases, there's going to be different levels of accessibility on things in terms of cost-wise, but at the same time, it's very important from our end to show teams robots that we feel could do really well in the field too, because we think there's a lot of teams out there that want to do that. One of those with that, we've had a lot of support also from Swerve Drive Specialties. We're very appreciative of that here. We think that the modules, you can get them from both them and Andy Mark. They're a very solid module that's shown to work very well in competition and very easy for teams to put together. So it's one of those things that we think was good for our Ri3D team to get going and kind of have a Swerve Drive type strategy for that, because the field really lends itself well to Swerve being open and lots of opportunities to for where a Swerve could be advantageous, like strafing, in order to drop the game pieces and whatnot. So to us, Swerve seems like a really good thing for teams to do this year if it's something that they're able to do. All right. Now we're going to go to that elevator next. I'm going to let Tyler bring the camera down. So it's the bigger one on the floor here. So that one, the intent is to put that on our bigger robot. So I'm going to turn it over to Ethan and Caleb and let them cover that.
Yeah, so like Ben said, this is the elevator we're working on, and it's held together by gussets. We're using the Thrifty Bot and Andy Mark elevator assemblies here. We're just doing a single stage because due to the nature of the game, you don't need to reach high enough, that we felt it was a better idea to go with a single stage elevator. It's not quite finished here, but the idea is that we will use the single stage and we'll have some sort of arm that is pneumatically activated to where it'll drop down, it'll pick up a game piece, and then you can lift it up into your robot. That way it's safe and it won't get knocked out. And then when you get back to your area, you can drop off the game piece. You can let the pneumatic manipulator drop back out and place your game piece. And the reason it's so wide is so that when you bring it up, there's plenty of room and it won't interfere.
All right, thanks, Ethan. So moving on to the next subsystem, we have the arm for our other robot, which is looking to me, it's a tube-and-tube design. This particular one is from the Thrifty Bot. We have a number. We talked about the clamping gearboxes earlier. We've got one down here from Andy Mark and one from the Thrifty Bot. We're looking at using a Rev Max planetary to do the extension and retraction here. So you can see the start of it right down here where my pinky finger is pointing. Here, Jack's going to take it and show it off. Yeah, this part right here. So we're going to direct mount that max planetary in there so that we can extend and retract the arm that we'll put our gripper on. It's over long right now, so we plan to cut it down. We're just getting all the hardware in place, and it'll be positioned similar to where Jack has right there. Well, looking at it, we'll probably need to install a gas shock or something to be a little bit of a counterbalance because we're planning on using number 35 chain to power that. So a lot of work still to do here, but we're working at it, and it should move along pretty quickly. So that's good. Now going ahead and moving on to grippers, let's go ahead and talk about this one that we have here in front of us, the cheesy poof style open, open gripper. So I'm going to turn it over to Luke.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't had access to the cones yet, they're very hard to manipulate and deal with because of all the different positions that they can be in, whether it's upright or laying down on the ground. So the idea that we were thinking of is similar to what teams were doing in 2018 with the outward angled design with the rollers. So if we try to demonstrate this over here, we have it on some, this actuates out here, and when you bring it in, it'll help actuate and pull in your cone. So whether it's in this position or if it's on the ground and to the side, it can help manipulate the cone to where it goes into the robot the way that we want it to be oriented. And same thing with the cubes. When we put the cubes in, it's very nice. The cubes are a lot easier to deal with, and it just helps suck the cube in and get it to the position that we want. We're still working through a lot of the other things because we found that some of the rollers and the roller height, and then sometimes the wheel distance also messes up a little bit. So it's kind of figuring out all of the geometry and all the specs that need to go there. Other than that, though, I think the basic idea of the 2018 style intake is the way that we're thinking of going, and we've seen a lot of promise with this intake.
All right, so going back to the Swerve for a moment, I have
Mhm.
one question and then a related question. Do you think there'll be issues with the Swerve modules getting damaged going up onto the charging station thing?
Yeah, my response to that would be it really it depends. I think in our case, the Swerve Drive Specialties modules will probably be pretty good, especially considering the number of teams that really rammed at the cable protector last year, and they seem to do okay for the teams that had those. There are a few that had bash guards. I would suggest we don't have that yet, so maybe that's something we may take a look at. But there's a lot of teams out there that have published bash guard designs, so they could take a look at those and maybe consider those in their design. Now, with that, something I wanted to mention on the gripper design, just because it's not there yet, we're doing a lot of reorientation of cone ideas that are still kind of kicking around here. So the intent here is to try to get the infrastructure to pull it in, and then after we get the infrastructure to pull it in, get the infrastructure for reorienting the cone at that point. Now, do we have other questions, or we can go to the other gripper design?
Yes, couple questions.
Yeah.
All right, one is kind of related to the Swerve. Do you think we could use a kit bot, i.e. not Swerve, tank to play the game effectively?
You could. It's going to have different capabilities, and then it won't be able to move sideways to get to the cones. But for the straightaways, it'll work great.
All right, and then a question from chat from Invisisloth. What are your plans to handle cones coming in standing up versus lying down?
Yeah. So we sort of discussed that already. We're working on it here. There's a couple different. We'll get to the other gripper too, so we'll talk about that one too. But there's a couple different challenges, obviously, because cones can come in sideways, laying down in a number of different ways. So you have to handle every single edge case. Like in this case, the gripper's not low enough, so it needs to be a lot lower in order to do it properly, and we need to get it so we can power it off drills and that sort of thing. So we've got a lot of work that we still need to do. You know, there's a number of tricky things that we could do for reorienting, but we need to build some of the infrastructure before we can really show that stuff off and make sure it works. Let me go ahead and turn over to the other gripper design. That way we can, we can cover what's going on with this one, and that way everyone's got all the information.
Yeah, so we're just going to move this up closer to the camera so you can take a look. One of the things, as Ben has already mentioned, about the orientations of the cone is that it could really be any orientation on the field. You know, it could be at a 15-degree angle, it could be at a 17-degree angle, lying down, standing up, probably not upside down, but you get the idea. And so one of the ways that we have evaluated is one of the ideal positions for the cone is to be point towards you, point away from you, or obviously straight up is the ideal case. And so we've thought about having a way to do kind of a infinity to 3 configuration converter, and then a 3 to 1, which is the design that we'll be showing off today. So this is rigged up with a simple pneumatic system in which if the cone is lying down, either point directly towards you with a tolerance of a few degrees, sorry, it should be able to pick it up, and then because it has free spinning wheels, it will be able to put it in an upright configuration, and then you'll be able to do whatever you want with it, whether that's put it on one of the poles or just move it somewhere else on the field with ease. And this design also works with the cubes. There's no real worries about, since the cubes are inflatable, we did do a bit of testing that our design wouldn't pop it. We have pretty large paddles, but even at 60 psi, which is standard working pressure, everything seems to be fine.
Yeah, so question from Chicken Skunk 100 and FA1 are asking about the durability of the cube, and also if we had to pick cone or cube, which one would we rather work with?
So the durability of the cube, I mean, we haven't popped one yet. We haven't put it through the most abuse, I would say, but like I said, 60 psi with maybe 4-inch paddles didn't do it. But we may have more info later. We'll see. As far as cube versus cone, obviously, if you're only going for cubes, you're going to severely limit your point scoring options. But you can't get the 3 in a row that you need only doing one game piece. I don't know if anyone else on the team has any input, but I don't know if it's as easy as just saying we pick one over the other.
I definitely think that there is viability in having a cube-only robot. So as long as there's a robot that's able to do cones as well, you can focus on doing the cubes, and then another robot can go ahead and do the cones, right? So if you think that you can only do one or the other, and you think that you can do cubes much better than you'll be able to do cones, I personally would recommend doing the cubes, because you want to be doing the best that your robot can do and to the best of your abilities. So if you think that it's going to be too much effort or not enough design time, or you don't have the machining capabilities or enough time to be able to orient the cones and work with the cones in a really nailed down fashion, then you can go ahead and go with doing the cubes. Every team is at a different level, and every team has a different skill set. So if you're able to work with the cubes and do a really great job with cubes, I would suggest doing just the cubes. If you're really able to nail down the cones, then nail down the cones. And if you think that you can get both of them, then that's great. And then you can get the links of 3 by yourself.
Remember also, you can just put the cubes on the bottom on the floor, and you can make 3 links of 3 cubes each, 9 in a row that way. So a cube-only robot can be beneficial, especially if they're fast at running the cubes.
Before we continue, we're going to start a giveaway for today, everybody. So we'll get that on camera on here. We're giving away a fun t-shirt. So if you're interested in any First Updates Now t-shirt, type in chat right now, Redux, R-E-D-U-X. type that in chat. That's your opportunity to win. Don't forget, you do need to be following the channel in order to be eligible to win. And we do give our subscribers a little bit extra luck because we clearly rig it for them. So go ahead, we'll draw for that in a few minutes before we get back to more Ri3D recap of our Redux team.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, question from King Fury. Has anyone thought of a reasonable solution to reach the top row of nodes? Double elevator, maybe?
Yeah, so we got a couple, two ways we're looking at that right now. We've got an arm on an elevator and an elevator on an arm. So there, to put it bluntly there. Yeah, so you'll see them more as we put together. We kind of overviewed them already. One for each robot. That way we can play around with a couple different ways to show teams some different ways to do this. Yeah, Chris asked it over here if there was a way to get it done with just 1 degree of freedom. And our current thought is probably we'll work with 2 because I think it's simpler in the long run for teams to go that way.
All right, another question from Azeloth. Have you considered a single elevator placed on an angle?
We'd either, Justin was saying that the elevator would have to be retracted, or we'd have to figure out whatever angle it was that worked, and it'd have to work with the slope too. So, there could be potential that you'd have to do it, but maybe you'd have to have like a long something on the inside. Haven't really explored that one as much. Really, a lot of complex geometry things for Ri3D. We kind of got to try to move fast on this. So this is we try to pursue solutions that have a lot of tolerance as much as possible here, because then it's going to be a little bit more likely that they'll be successful for teams if they choose to deviate from it a little bit. So when we're doing this, we're trying for a lot of tolerance in our solutions. So even if it adds a degree of freedom in the long run, it might be simpler. So question being, would it be possible to have a chassis bot and use that to just score low? Yeah, it could be. You could have, especially if it had a roller on it and a bumper cutout, you could suck the cubes in and then run them across the field and spit them out. You could score a decent number of points that way in this game and be very fast. So that is one option for teams.
So another way that you could have a really simple robot this year for maybe a team that doesn't have enough time to go into the shop or not super complex machining operations is you could probably have a pneumatically actuated ramp on your robot that you load the cubes on top of your robot from the driver station or the load-in station, have it sitting on top of your robot, and then dumping it on the other side of the field whenever you get to the other side, just having the ramp pneumatically actuated and then rolling off into one of the low goals.
Yeah, so something else about having only a chassis robot is the points this year are pretty low comparatively, and so the end game and the autonomous on the charging station is actually pretty important and something that you can do with just a chassis bot. So, you can go for those low scoring points, but also as long as you're on that ramp, you're getting quite a few points as well as ranking points. So it's not a bad strategy if that's what you want to go for.
All right, and Cow Goes Re asks, scissor mechanism?
No scissor mechanism. Nah. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I'm actually going to trivialize it a little bit. I mean, really, if you look at what we're doing, we're taking inspiration from previous years. So, we call one of our solutions here Pink Arm. I think that was from 2007. Copied a lot, and 2011. Obviously, we've had some ramp games. 2012, we had a narrow long ramp instead of a wide short ramp like we have this year. So really looking at inspiration from previous years to kind of get us to a solution that we know is going to work for this. We also have had a lot of inspiration on what doesn't work. So the more complicated the linkage, the more degrees of freedom, the more pins and rotation points, the more slop you have, and the more difficult it is to control. So scissor mechanism, low points to really cause you pain. So no.
Yeah, we also don't have equipment in this shop in order to make a scissor mechanism, so unfortunately we can't do that. Too bad.
What are kind of next steps, future plans for Redux to get done tonight and then going into tomorrow?
Yeah, so next steps, programming is going to keep working to get the code going on this chassis. At some point, we'll probably try to do a swap after they're feeling pretty comfortable over here to the other one so they can get that one going. So hopefully we can get these running here. Obviously, continued development on the gripper mechanisms to try to get them polished out. From the arm perspective, getting them finished up. So we got that one and we got the other one going. So trying to get them going. We're moving fast and furious here. Lots going on.
All right, and Azeloth asks, what are your strategic thoughts on robots that only score on specific levels?
Yeah. My own personal thoughts. I think at certain levels of play it'll be fine because at certain levels of play it's just like straight up volume. So it's going to be totally okay to only go to certain levels. I think once you get to the highest levels of play, people are going to want to segment the field a little bit, where it's like I take this half, you take that half, and there it's going to be important to score at all three levels. To have a robot of both cones and cubes. That's my own personal opinion. So, at a certain point, if you're okay changing your robot throughout the season, maybe you could go for the first two levels, which is a lot easier to start with, and then ultimately go to the third level later on if you make it to World Championships and that sort of thing, and kind of build your robot over time. I think you just have to consider each level of play and where you want to get to and how you want to perform there when you decide which level you want to get to.
Chat, just a heads up. We got about a couple more minutes before we're going to let the Ri3D team get back to work. So if you do have those questions, make sure you get those in chat so we can do those. Let's go ahead and draw for our giveaway, by the way, of the fun t-shirt. So once again, if you do win, please shoot First Updates Now a message either here on Twitch or on Discord so we can get that out to you. Of course, need your name, shipping address, preferably t-shirt size unless you want extra small, and we'll get that out to you. Winner of that is going to be Everett5660. Congratulations. Please make sure you shoot us a message so we can get that out to you. So Ri3D Redux team, is there from a lessons learned going into next day, like teams who are looking to tackle this right away and go into it, like should they just start building right away, or what's kind of like how do you pace yourself as a team tackling this challenge, especially if you're like a newer team coming into this?
Yeah, if you're a newer team coming into this, number one, I'd order your drivetrain if you haven't already. If you haven't already and don't know what that is, I'd even if it's going to have cutouts in it, I'd still get that going. I'd make sure your field elements are done, and then I'd watch us and a lot of the rest of the Ri3D teams over, especially the next week. You can prototype things yourself a little bit, but also make sure you take lessons from everybody else. I wouldn't, it's a long build season. People think they need to make decisions and get stuff done in the first day and stuff like that. That's not necessarily true. I've been on teams where we don't actually decide what we're doing for 4 weeks and we still do fine. So, you just gotta, pace yourself as you go through it and realize that like there's a certain, ultimately it's the quality once you get on the field that matters there. And it's not like you have to get everything done in the first couple days. Not like us. I mean, the intent here is we have ourselves under the gun so we can get more information out. So it's a little bit different.
Kung Furry asks, how does everyone feel about this game? Seems pretty simple and fun in my opinion.
I like it. Anyone else have thoughts?
So I'll go on record to say I have been asking for a football or other weird shaped game element for years now. I got one and I hate it. We'll figure it out though. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I think this game is cool. I like it. I don't know. Anyone else? Maybe I'm the only one who likes it. Okay.
Yep. What are your thoughts on controlling the robot's center of mass while extending far to the high nodes?
Yeah, I think the gripper's not going to have to be that heavy, so we're not super worried about it.
I think that also one of the things in the rules is that whenever you're in your community area, I think that you're allowed to extend out in other directions as well. So you are able to do a counterbalance if you need to have that counterbalance. So you actually could have something moving that will counterbalance so that you can't tip over.
So the other thing to keep half in mind, if you do find yourself ending up with a high center of mass, when you are going onto the what's it called, teeter-totter side? Yeah. Yes. Especially if your robots are not coming out from the same side or you mistime it, you're gonna have a very large wedge that you're gonna potentially be running into. So again, just you have to use a lot of caution there, especially knowing if you are potentially very tippy and you don't want to like run into a brick wall and then tip yourself over. Something we're gonna have to watch out for a lot.
No other questions, but we do have a request to run the intake again.
Which one?
Pick one.
All right, let's run the one that can run.
Are you just gonna get it? Okay.
We have to charge it up with the shop compressor, and then we can run it again.
So why don't we do that after the show? Well, if you want to watch this, stick around. We'll run it again for that. But we'll kind of wrap it up here. Ben, with you've done Ri3D for a long time now. Any things looking at this year versus previous years that you're feeling in regards to how this progress is going so far?
Yeah, this is a good game for Ri3D. We have a very good challenge with these cones to work on, which is figuring that out at least to some extent will be helpful for the community, I think. I think the game in general, it doesn't seem that much harder than in past years, and I think also like with the cones, once someone figures it out, everyone's just going to copy it. So it's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of equality once you get to the high levels of play, which I think is, which I personally enjoy because I think it's going to be fun. I think there's going to be a lot of very competitive teams this year with this game because I think a lot of teams are going to get it figured out. So. I think in terms of Ri3D, it's nice because it's short and we're in a spot with a 7-foot ceiling right now. So I'm happy for that. And it's also, there's a little bit less subsystems going on, so it's easier for us to do 2 robots too. So that's nice.
So confident, would you say?
Yeah, I feel.
All right, we'll see if it's your undoing or not, but in
Yeah.
the next few days as it comes. So we're going to let the Ri3D team get back to work, everybody. Big thanks to everybody here at Ri3D Redux has been putting in many hours so far. Much more to go, by the way, over the next few days. Tomorrow, our daily recap is going to be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern because I'm selfish, and the Packers game is happening. So afterwards, so we moved it up early. But with that said, other nights, Monday is going to be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern for recap, and then Tuesday, what time are we revealing the robot, Ben?
It'll be 1 Eastern. So noon for us.
So right
We're
around
giving
noon?
ourselves a free hour. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. So make sure you tune in
Yes.
for that. Of course, we don't go to youtube.com/firstupdates now for all the videos we've been releasing. We got a whole bunch out there, more to come as well too. But let the Ri3D team get back to it. Chat, if you can give a big hype to all the Ri3D people here working their butts off, trying to make some great content. We appreciate you so much. Well, we're going to let the team get back to it. Thanks everybody for working so hard throughout today as well. Appreciate it, guys. This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. SolidWorks is free for first teams. Over 80% of US engineering schools and 370,000 plus companies use SolidWorks to design great products. SolidWorks can help you design a great robot on desktop or on the cloud. Go to solidworks.com/first to register your team. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for first students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Thank you to all of our suppliers and sponsors for the Robot in 3 Days Redux and Kettering Bulldogs programs.